All right, eat as much as you want.
4 orders of takeout steak were placed on the table. What Helen placed in front of me was a sandwich.
Poor people like this, right?
What do you mean by that?
I mean, for poor people, this should be enough to treat them, right?
I was so shocked by the Kevin and Helen's words that I let out a big sigh. It seems we are not welcome here, so we'll leave.
I'll never come back here again.
I don't want you here either. You'll bring down the status of this house.
I'm leaving this house too. I don't even want to breathe the same air as you anymore.
Ignoring the voices of the couple trying to stop their son, we went outside. Then we each took out our phones. But I can't just let them cut ties with their child like this.
I won't let it end like this either.
They will lose everything. I can't wait to see how they react. I am Amy Scott, 50 years old. I've raised my daughter Emma as a single mother. My husband passed away early. My relationship with my family was bad, and my in-laws also passed away early, so I had no one to rely on. Raising my daughter alone was tough, but she grew up to be a wonderful child. I know I must have made her feel lonely sometimes, but she always thought of me.
Mom, I have someone I want you to meet.
Huh, who is it? One day, Emma said she wanted to introduce her boyfriend. Before I knew it, Emma was already 22. It wasn't strange for her to have a boyfriend. She was at the age where marriage was a possibility. The person she introduced was a man named John Smith, a well-mannered and kind man. He was thoughtful of Emma, who was shy, and had the strength to guide her. With him, Emma would surely be happy. I could feel my daughter's growth, and it made me feel a little lonely. But soon after, something happened that would completely erase those sentimental feelings.
Hey, come out here quickly. I know you're in there.
The loud sound of the doorbell being pressed repeatedly and the hysterical screams of a woman echoed. I was surprised and checked the camera at the entrance. A woman around my age stood there with a stern expression. Emma, get ready to call the police.
Mom, are you going outside?
Otherwise, it will be a nuisance to the neighbors. Fortunately, the woman didn't seem to have anyone with her. When I stepped outside, her face grew even more tense.
It's not you I want. I want your daughter. She's the one I need.
Excuse me, but who are you?
How rude. I'm John's mother.
John was always respectful to me. Could his kind nature's mother really barge into someone's home and yell like this? I couldn't reconcile the image of John with the woman in front of me. John's mother, I believe your name is Helen, right? What is this about? You're being so rude and unreasonable.
Unreasonable? You should talk. A single parent like you trying to make a move on my son. Both you and your daughter must be nothing but low-class, poor people. You must be after our money, right?
The way she wouldn't listen made me quickly lose patience. She was making assumptions and outright rejecting everything I said. It seemed like she already had a fixed image of us, even though we hadn't properly talked. I've heard that John and Emma started dating because they got along at work. We don't want your money, and we're not interested in it either.
Don't lie. I won't give a single penny to poor people like you. Don't you ever come near my child again.
She kept bringing up money in front of someone she just met. And not only that, but saying she had no intention of giving any. It was clear who the petty one really was. The intercom camera had been recording the whole time, both the conversation and the video. Maybe I should just quickly close the door and call the police. As I was thinking that, John appeared from across the street. He must have heard our argument and came running, his face pale.
What are you doing? How did you find this place? Stay away from Emma and Amy.
His voice was low and harsh, like he was speaking to a stranger, not his own mother. Helen, who had been pulled away from me, revealed her irritation and started yelling at her own son.
What kind of way is that to talk to a mother who's worried about you? You're being deceived. You should break up with that daughter of a single parent right now. What's the benefit of being with someone like that?
I was so glad Emma hadn't been brought to the door. If Emma had faced this woman, who knows what she would have done.
Stop it. Don't act like a mother now. You're just upset that we're gaining more relatives. You're worried you won't get Grandpa's inheritance.
It seemed like he hit the nail on the head as Helen's face turned bright red.
Why do you always say such twisted things? I raised you, and now you're distracted by this woman. Stop arguing and do as I say. I'll find you a proper wife.
John seemed to realize that there was no point in continuing the conversation. His expression dropped, and he looked at his real mother with cold, emotionless eyes.
If you keep causing a scene, I'll call the police.
Helen, though unreasonable, seemed to realize that she would be at a disadvantage if the police were involved. After showing a bit of fear, she glared at John and raised her voice.
Think carefully about what I said.
Once Helen left, John immediately apologized to me.
I'm sorry for causing you trouble. I'm embarrassed to admit, but that's my mother. I don't even know how she got wind of this.
He really was a solid guy. You don't need to apologize for what she did. Even though you're family, she's still a stranger.
Thank you. But I think if I stay, something like this will happen again. I'd like to distance myself to avoid causing you more trouble.
No, I don't want that.
Emma suddenly burst out of the room and threw herself at John. I agreed with Emma. If you want to listen to your mother, I won't stop you. But if you want to resist, I'll help you. Hearing my words, John broke down in tears. Seeing that made my heart ache. He must have gone through a lot. At that moment, I realized I wanted to protect him just as much as I protected Emma. John's parents had always been indifferent to him, only talking about money. They took pride in the company they inherited from his paternal grandfather and enjoyed bragging about how successful they were. They looked down on others and acted arrogantly like they had done to us, which made things very difficult for John. He confessed, somewhat embarrassed, that after hearing about me from Emma, he became envious. He had already given up on talking to his parents, but after seeing how they treated us, he reconsidered and harshly scolded them. Thanks to that, Helen stopped coming to our house after that. Instead, she invited us over to apologize.
It's not something that can just be brushed off. If you're uncomfortable, I'll refuse.
While I admired John for his firm attitude, I shook my head. You don't need to worry. I'm fine. What about Emma? When I brought up the topic, Emma nodded with a smile.
We might have to keep up with family relationships from now on.
Towards the end, she seemed to get embarrassed by what she said and looked down, her face turning red. John was blushing as well, and I couldn't help but smile at how cute it was. I knew I had to stay strong to protect these two. With renewed determination, I decided to visit John's family home. As expected from a company president who constantly boasted about money, the house was a mansion. When we passed through the large gate and reached the entrance, John's parents greeted us. "Thank you for inviting us."
We're honored to be here.
As Emma and I appreciated their invitation, John's father, Kevin Smith, smiled.
Oh, it's great to have you here. Please come right in.
He glanced at Emma but wouldn't even make eye contact with me. At first glance, it looked like he was being polite to both of us, but the way he kept glancing at me with a smirk made it seem like he was trying to provoke me.
Must have been tough walking all the way here, huh? Or maybe you're young enough to handle it.
Kevin and his wife had been talking only to Emma and completely ignoring me. John, standing behind them, had veins popping on his forehead, looking like he was about to yell. Emma looked confused, glancing around nervously. I couldn't believe that people my age would act so childish with such petty harassment. It was unpleasant, but if I got angry now, it would play into their hands.
It's about time for lunch.
I ordered steak today as an apology. You probably haven't had it much, have you?
Their words were full of sarcasm. Emma gave a vague smile, and John furrowed his brow. I waited quietly, observing their next move.
Well, go ahead. Eat as much as you want.
4 orders of takeout steak were placed on the table. What Helen placed in front of me was a sandwich. Kevin was also looking at me with a smug, unpleasant smile.
Poor people like that kind of thing, right?
John's face turned pale, and he started to apologize to me. I quickly shook my head to stop him. It seemed like John understood my intentions and refrained from yelling at his parents or apologizing to me. What's the meaning of this?
It's simple, isn't it? A poor person should be happy with this kind of hospitality.
You should be grateful just to even be allowed into this house.
Emma's face lost all color, and she seemed to shrink. John, shaking with anger, glared at his parents.
It's a waste to serve steak to someone like you. You probably wouldn't even know what it tastes like.
And then Helen's attack shifted toward Emma.
You have to choose now. Either cut ties with your poor mother and follow our rules, or go back to being poor.
Emma looked up and stared at Helen. Seeing Emma's face drained of color seemed to make Helen smile more cruelly.
Well, I'll teach you all about the rules of the upper class, although you might want to run away after a while.
It seemed like the politeness she had shown Emma was just a surface act, all part of the harassment. Blinded by money, she believed Emma would cut ties with me. If that happened, Emma would have nowhere to go and would suffer greatly in their house.
John, this is what happens when you don't listen to your parents. You have no judgment. I was against letting such poor people into our house. Wake up and stop associating with people like this. It's bringing shame to us.
I was so fed up with Kevin and Helen's words that I couldn't help but let out a big sigh. To go through the trouble of preparing steak and sandwiches just for childish harassment. I wonder which one of us is truly tasteless. It seems that Helen didn't like that I wasn't acting meek, so she threw the water she had in her hand at me.
Mom.
It's fine. Helen's face turned red with anger. Although she was dressed elegantly, her expression and attitude showed her true nature.
You poor thing. Watch your mouth. You're an uncouth, low-class woman.
Please don't speak badly about my mother. You've been going on and on about being poor, talking about money all the time. I can't believe you're John's parents.
Emma, who was usually shy, raised her voice, which was something I hadn't heard since her rebellious phase. She must have been really fed up. I wasn't yelling either, but I was just as upset, so I completely understood her.
You two are unbelievably rude. I was kind to you because I thought you were nice enough for John. But this is how you act. You should at least clean the floor since you've dirtied it.
Kevin was showing his teeth, spitting as he spoke. Honestly, it was hard to believe that someone as good as John came from these parents. It seems we're not welcome, so we'll take our leave. I wiped my face with a handkerchief and gestured for Emma to follow me. Emma, with a stiff expression, stood up from her chair.
I'll never come here again.
Emma and John's eyes met. I noticed, but it seemed that Helen and Kevin didn't notice their exchange at all. It was laughable that they called themselves parents.
I don't want you to come here again either. You'll ruin the status of this house.
Honestly, it's unbearable with that poor smell. Hey, John, if you learn anything from this, listen to what your parents say.
When John was addressed, he suddenly smiled broadly, as if he had been waiting for the chance to speak.
I'm leaving this house too. I don't even want to breathe the same air as you guys anymore.
His declaration felt like the natural conclusion to everything. If he stayed with parents like these, he would never be happy. But it seemed that Kevin and Helen didn't expect this.
What did you say? Don't get cheeky.
Have you forgotten the debt of gratitude for raising you?
You didn't raise me.
You ungrateful brat.
Ignoring the hysterical shouts from Helen and Kevin, John, Emma, and I left his family home.
I'm so sorry, Amy. I never imagined they could be so childish. I truly apologize for making you uncomfortable.
As soon as we left John's houses, John apologized to me. Then he apologized to Emma as well.
Emma, I'm really sorry. I've made you feel bad.
It's fine. I'm just happy you came with me, John.
You must have had a hard time with parents like that. I had heard rumors about Kevin, who worked as a company president. But the reality was beyond anything I had imagined. His wife's personality was also intense.
When I was little, I was raised by my grandparents, so I didn't start getting involved with them until high school.
Well, that explains it.
Hey, Mom.
I snapped to attention when I heard Emma's reprimanding voice. Trying to judge someone's character based on their parents or basing it on financial status was just the same. Right, I'm sorry. I guess I was wrong to think of them that way. When I apologized sincerely, John smiled wryly and shook his head.
It's fine. Everyone who's close to me says it was a blessing to be raised by my grandparents.
I'm really sorry, but I agree with you.
I think so too. I'm actually glad that this will finally sever our ties.
Emma held John's hand. John, in response, grasped her hand back, and they gazed at each other. It's great to see that they get along so well. It brings a smile to my face. It still stings to be cut off by their own child, though. At my words, John nodded while still holding Emma's hand.
I don't intend to let it end just like this either.
John took out his phone, and we each made calls to different places. We had already discussed this before heading to his family's home. They would lose everything. I couldn't wait to see their reactions. The next day, as I was heading to work, Helen and Kevin showed up.
Hey, you poor thing. What did you do? Why are the business deals being canceled? Why is everyone mentioning your name?
I couldn't help but frown when the two of them approached, as if to interrupt me. It was expected, but hearing their yelling still gave me a headache.
Where's John? Get him out here. You took him, didn't you?
I slapped Helen's hand away as she lunged at me and spat out, "I'll call the police." At my words, both Kevin and Helen flinched and stopped in their tracks. It seemed they were scared of the police after all. At least they seemed aware of how unreasonable they were, which was something. "Kevin, maybe you should remember who your business partners are. I never thought I'd get such harassment from a fellow in the same industry."
What? What do you mean, business partner? What are you talking about?
It seemed they truly had no idea. I couldn't even begin to express my disbelief. How they could still brag about being a president was beyond me. "I'm the president. I took over my late husband's company. We've had some business dealings with your company. Though, it was because of the help we got from your predecessor that we continued working together. After my husband passed away, I didn't know anything, but the former president and his wife were very kind to me. They always said to me that we should help each other, and they taught me everything about the industry and running a company. Without them, I wouldn't be where I am today. That's why I kept doing business with their company, even though the current president's reputation was bad. I was treated to childish harassment the other day, and I haven't heard any good things from your company's staff, so I decided to end our business relationship. There are many companies like mine that continue doing business because of the debt we owe to the previous president. But with the current president's bad reputation and the declining quality of their goods, many companies are now reconsidering whether to keep doing business with them. Your reputation in the industry is terrible, you know. Most companies currently working with you are still doing so because they feel indebted to the previous president. Since you angered him, it's only natural for everyone to pull away." John had reported to the previous president. The previous president had run the company with his wife, and they were very attached to their company and achievements. The current president, who showed no respect for either, had angered them deeply. "I think once you two retire, I might consider working with the next president." Well, most people around me feel the same way.
The next president. Where did you hear that?
It seemed that they had been informed of the future plans by the previous president before coming here. Helen, visibly panicked, was glared at by Kevin.
Shut up. Don't say anything unnecessary.
It was a reasonable judgment, but angering the previous president was the same as making an enemy of the entire industry. No matter what they tried to do now, it was too late.
Hey, get John out here. We need to talk. You know where he is, don't you?
John went to his grandparents' house, your father's place. It seems the previous president has been preparing to kick you out for a long time. By now, they're probably planning the board meeting. Besides, the previous president's wife was much better at handling things than Helen. When the president decided something, his wife would tell everyone around her, making sure everything went smoothly. I had seen such scenes many times before. These people, who should have had far more opportunities to see this kind of thing than I, were clearly still learning nothing, and it was very disappointing.
Why is this happening? Both your father and mother are too soft on their grandchild, and now everyone is believing this woman's story.
Helen tore at her hair, letting out a hysterical scream. Kevin, apparently too distracted by his wife, turned his back to me and started shouting.
Hey, are you serious? Let's go to the other house right now.
There's no need for that.
The calm, firm voice that spoke was John's. I noticed a car parked nearby with the door to the driver's seat open. It seemed that John had driven himself here.
In 4 days, there's going to be a board meeting at the company. You will be asked to step down as president. Grandpa plans to disown you.
At John's words, Kevin's eyes widened. Soon, his face turned bright red, and he began shouting once again.
John, how dare you speak to your real parents like that?
Following her husband, Helen also raised her voice, blaming John in a shrill tone.
What do you mean you want him to quit as president? You're trying to kick out your own parents and take over the company.
Their argument was utterly selfish. They had driven the company to the brink of collapse, but they didn't seem to realize it. If it were me, I'd be frowning by now, but John remained completely composed.
I'm doing it to protect the employees and the company. Besides, I don't recall being raised by you two. Grandpa and Grandma took care of me.
It seemed that John's calmness was getting under their skin. Kevin's face turned a deep, dark shade, and his expression was filled with murderous intent. Although they were cornered to the extreme, John remained completely composed. In the end, it was their son who had pushed them to this point. It was no surprise that they were furious, completely ignoring their own actions up to this point. As expected, Kevin glared at John with a fierce look, lunging at his own son.
You ungrateful brat.
I couldn't help but worry about John. If someone as enraged as that were to attack, who knew what could happen? However, my worry proved to be unnecessary.
Enough. This is ridiculous.
An elderly man emerged from the back seat of the car John had driven. He scolded them sharply. Suddenly, everything in the scene froze as if time had stopped. This man was none other than the previous company president, Alex, John's grandfather.
Dad, what are you doing here?
Kevin, who had just been filled with rage toward his own son, now turned pale and started panicking. Although he had been raised to be brazen, it seemed he couldn't stand up to the previous president.
You've been acting in a way that I can't just stand by. If you keep causing trouble, I'll call the police.
Kevin's eyes wandered, and he reluctantly lowered his raised fist. Helen, with a flattering smile, tried to cozy up to the previous president.
Oh, Alex, please don't say such terrible things to your own son.
Helen, be quiet.
The one who reprimanded her for her disgraceful behavior was the previous president's wife. She was John's grandmother and, like the previous president, had the energy of someone far younger than her age suggested. She glared at Helen with a stern face.
Many of the employees have come to me, saying you've treated them like servants. Are you two really trying to destroy the company?
It had been a while since I last saw them, but their presence was undeniably strong. Looking at them, it was clear to me that Kevin and Helen weren't suited to run the company. Only John, their grandson, carried a similar aura to them.
This is a misunderstanding. I've been working for the company's sake, and this treatment is just too much.
The thunder from the previous president fell on Kevin, who was still making excuses.
Because of you, our company's reputation has gone down the drain. I never want to see your face again. You won't be allowed to come inside our house ever again.
The heavy shout vibrated through the air. Unlike Kevin's shout, which had been fueled by his emotions. Meanwhile, the president's wife, though not shouting, maintained a firm and dignified stance.
The next president will be John. All the other board members agree. It's painful to leave the sick company in the hands of my grandson, but we will do everything we can to support him. There's no way I'm letting you two handle this company anymore.
Even as an outsider, I could feel how angry they both were. They had spent so much time building this company, and now it had been destroyed. Moreover, they had made their beloved grandson suffer embarrassment. That was more than enough reason to cut them off.
This is terrible. What are we supposed to do now?
We've worked so hard, and now just one mistake. And this is how we're treated?
One mistake. Do you really think that's all it is?
John, who had been silent until now, scoffed. He had suffered greatly because of his parents, so I'm sure he had plenty he wanted to say.
You don't even understand the current state of your own company, do you? You two are just wasting away the trust built by your grandfather and grandmother.
His loud voice felt like a long suppressed outburst. He had probably wanted to call them out like this for a long time. To back him up, the previous president spoke up.
The reason John didn't join our company, but instead joined another in the same industry, was to rebuild our company, which you nearly destroyed with your reckless management. He asked to be taught about the industry and management, saying he wanted to learn from a good company.
I had heard this from John as well. He had said the people at the company were very kind once they understood the situation. They had said that if the company went under, it would be a problem for everyone, and that they were grateful to the previous president. And that's where he met Emma too.
He told me he would work hard to join on his own merit. Kevin turned out to be a failure, but I'm glad John turned out well.
It seemed that both the previous president and John had been preparing for this moment to finally get rid of Kevin and Helen. The employees of the company must have endured so much mistreatment while trying to protect it. I hoped their efforts and feelings would be rewarded. I was willing to do everything I could to help. Now, I felt like I could finally repay the kindness I had received from the previous president. I suddenly noticed the previous president's wife glancing at me. She smiled at me, then turned her stern gaze back toward Helen and Kevin.
The person you've been mocking, Amy, is someone who is running the company her husband left behind, all on her own, and protecting many employees. She's greatly respected in the industry. You've insulted someone like her. It's no wonder everyone around you is disgusted.
Suddenly being brought up like this, I felt a bit embarrassed. I've certainly been doing what I can for the industry, but it's really just imitating those I respect. I'm just giving back what others did for me.
I'm honored that you say that. I'm very proud to have helped you.
I'm humbled. Until now, I had been watching Kevin and Helen with a cold gaze, but suddenly I became flustered and lost my composure. In stark contrast to me, Kevin and Helen were raising their voices again. They sounded like children throwing tantrums.
Why are you siding with a stranger over your own son and daughter-in-law? Don't you care about your son?
If it's because we ruined the company, then why didn't you warn us before it came to this?
I could only shake my head in disbelief at their childish excuses. And the reason the previous president had given up on them wasn't just because they ruined the company. As expected, the previous president sighed, clearly exhausted.
I told you over and over.
There must have been untold efforts behind the scenes that I couldn't even begin to understand. I could sense it, and it made me feel deeply sympathetic.
It's a lie. You've always favored outsiders like her, and I bet you've always hated me from the start. How could you treat your own child this way? What kind of terrible parents are you?
I was sure that continuing to talk would be pointless. With that conviction, I called out to an employee from our company who happened to pass by. "I'm sorry, but could you please call security and the police?"
Yes, understood.
It seemed that Kevin and Helen's shouting was echoing through the area, and the employee quickly ran back to the company.
Police.
Are you serious?
Well, it's only natural to call the police with people making a scene in front of someone's company. At my words, both Kevin and Helen made frustrated expressions. Until now, threats had been enough, but there was no point in continuing the conversation any further. I couldn't let them hurt the previous president or John, and if things escalated, it would be a disaster. I glared at them without averting my eyes, and they must have sensed my resolve. After a haughty click of their tongues, they spat out their parting words.
Don't think this is over.
We'll never forgive you.
Without waiting for a response from me, they stormed off. Neither John nor I, nor the previous president, had any intention of chasing after them. Their downfall was already sealed. No matter where they ran, nothing would change. After that, John left his job at the company on good terms and started working under his grandparents as the next president. As promised, Kevin and Helen were fired, and soon after, they were sued by subcontractors and employees for insults and threats. Furthermore, when John went through the accounting records, it was discovered that money had been embezzled. It turned out that they were also sued by their own son. The previous president was furious, and along with disowning them, he took back the house and land he had given them. After accumulating debts and losing their home, there were no more rumors about them. John never spoke of his parents in front of Emma or me, and neither Emma nor I were interested in what happened to them, so we never asked. Except for the disowned Kevin and Helen, everyone in John's family was exceptionally kind and noble, and after starting to interact with the extended family, I had very peaceful and stable days. 2 years later, Emma and John decided to get married. For a while, John had been busy sorting out his affairs, but now that things had finally settled, they were ready to take the next step.
Mom, thank you for raising me all these years and loving me.
Amy, thanks to you, I was able to meet Emma. And as a senior in the same industry, I truly respect you as a person. I'm so happy to be able to join your family and become part of it.
Oh no, both of you, please don't make me cry. I've gotten so sentimental as I've gotten older. I couldn't hold back my tears at their words, dressed in a white wedding dress and a white suit. It felt like the weight had lifted off my shoulders, and I was filled with a mix of sadness and happiness.
I'll make sure to make you as happy as you've made me all these years, Mom.
I'll cherish you, Emma, and take care of you, Amy, together with Emma.
Thank you, both of you. It had been a very difficult life. There were many struggles, but with my daughter and her husband by my side, I knew I would be fine no matter what came next. I would savor my happiness and continue to walk forward, just as I always have.